Hey, everybody. I don't know if you guys can hear us or not. The cat is coming through.
In the heart of South Carolina swamp, under moonlit skies, crooked sheriffs and ghostly tales, they whisper, they arise. Gator sightings and midnight chases through the thick dark mist. Stories of swamp justice, where truth and legend mixes.
Swamp justice, where truth and legend exist. So we're back on the radio at 97.7 FM. That's my best radio voice. 97.7 FM, WVFF, Veterans for Freedom Radio, the Truth and Broadcasting Corp. And we're also on Spotify and YouTube and all the other fun places that you guys like to be. That's where we are. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to get into a little bit about a story out of Clinton, South Carolina, of a young man, 14 years old, taken from this earth way too soon. But he was 14 years old. His name is Kaden Moses. And I've been talking about this story quite a bit, and I want to go through some of what's been happening with it, because I know a lot of you are very concerned of what's happening, why someone has not been charged with this yet, and what the solicitor, David Stumbo, I think he's out of the 8th solicitor's office, what he's doing about it. David Stumbo is also running for the Attorney General's office. How about that? But before we get into that, I want to just touch on the Stephen Smith case and the bombshell article posted at crimeandcask.com or ccnewsnetwork.com on the 15th of October. And it was a bombshell article about someone coming forward after 10 years. How many times has somebody said, listen, somebody needs to talk? And so somebody talked, and they talked to me, and only me. This is new information, never been heard from by anyone else. And I did the right thing, and I gave it to SLED and then my attorney, and we talked about it. And I contacted Sandy Smith, I contacted Eric Bland, her attorney, and I said, here's what I have. They were both thankful at the time, and then they kind of clammed up. Now, I don't understand, because, Bland, Richter had said all along, do we urge anyone with knowledge of the events leading up to Stephen Smith's death to contact SLED? I did that. And help bring long-awaited answers, Attorney Ronnie Richter added, anyone with information to come forward and provide critical details needed to solve this case. Again, I did that. However, in the wake of this Hulu series on Murdaugh, I've been told, I haven't watched it, I've been told that tonight's episode, or whatever the next episode is going to be dedicated to Stephen Smith. I may have to watch this one, because I want to see how wrong they are. As you know, a lot of people tried to blame Buster Murdaugh for this, which was just hogwash. But I want to see this one, because God forbid, if someone really is trying to blast this article that has come forward with information, what I believe is groundbreaking, bombshell, exclusive to Crime and Cask, you name it, this thing is it. Sent to SLED months ago. They've been working on it, and Bland doesn't want to hear the recording. I'm confused. That's all. So, Eric, if you're listening or if you're watching, just get a hold of me. Like, I want the same thing you and Sandy want, is to solve this. And I believe the information from the person that had come forward does that. So either you want it solved or you don't, or you want to support whoever wrote this Hulu show, or you want to support Sandy. Which one is it? I don't know if you can have it both ways. But so call me. Let's talk. How about that? Okay, so we're going to switch over to Kaden Moses. In this particular case, I am kind of concerned because of this guy right here. I'm going to show you this guy here. He is the solicitor that's in charge of prosecuting the case of Kaden Moses, who was tragically taken from this earth, and his parents and his brothers and sisters in a really awful way that no one should. And so this is Solicitor Stumbo. He's also running for Attorney General for the state of South Carolina. And let's just kind of go through this. This is the death certificate that was given to me by the family, and you can see it from here, but you can't on the radio, but I'm just going to read it to you. Medical information, cause of death is gunshot to the head, okay? It was a .243 bolt-action rifle. Cause of death, gun to the head. That's on the death certificate. The manner of death is listed as homicide, okay? And how the injury occurred is ruled shot by another person, issued June 27, 2024. That was well over a year ago, and going on 2 years from December 30th, 2023, very soon. I just don't understand. So let's go through with those on the radio who can't see this, but those of you that are following YouTube, let's just go through this, shall we? Just a quick recap. At 9 o'clock on December 30th, Kaden speaks with his girlfriend. We're going to call her May. He mentions a friend, Henry. 10 o'clock, the teens are in Kaden's room. May and the friend's girlfriend are on FaceTime. And according to May, 3 of the 4 teens are actively on a game called Roblox. She reports Kaden's avatar on Roblox continued to move right up to the moment he was shot. And according to many sources, if you play a Roblox game, you can't do it with one hand. You have to do it with 2 hands. At 10:55 on the open call, May hears Kaden begin, "What are?" The words, "what are?" That is Kaden's last words, "what are?" And followed by a sharp sound in the adjacent room. And Kaden's sister, Keely, and her boyfriend hear what they describe as a pop or a heavy object thumping a wall, as they say. They step into the hall. About a minute has passed, and the friend exits Kaden's room and shuts the door. So he's in the room by himself. Kaden's shot. He doesn't do anything, doesn't scream, doesn't yell, doesn't go run for help. He just sits there for a minute, according to the sister. And he comes out and he says, Kaden shot himself. When Keely looks in, she looks and sees her brother is unresponsive in his gaming chair and facing his monitor. She hears blood dripping on the carpet of that poor girl. First response 911 is called. Deputies arrive. The mother is frantic. Everybody's frantic. And according to the meeting transcript that we're going to talk about, family accounts, some scene control protocols were unevenly enforced. Neighbors and friends moved in and out of the scene. After the shot, after 911 and the authorities were there, a friend had observed on the carport, the friend who we're going to be talking about here, who was in Kaden's room at the time of his death, was repeatedly saying the words, "My fingerprints are on the bullets." Those are multiple witnesses gave consistent statements to crime and Cask and to law enforcement. And then a vehicle pulled forward at the end of the driveway, and the friend runs to it. And a second eyewitness later told CCN that they saw a teen exit an SUV, walk to the vehicle, and then the teens moved with the car as it rolled forward, alleging that Henry switched pants with his sister. Now, why would you switch pants at a crime scene? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So here, jump forward to February of 2025, and there's a meeting with the solicitor. And this is what, according to the family, the solicitor actually said. He said, and I quote, David Stumbo, "I think we all in this room would agree that this was not a self-inflicted shooting. The pathologist would be very clear." Remember the death certificate? "It was not Kaden that shot himself," said Solicitor Stumbo, according to eyewitnesses. "It was not Kaden that shot himself." Say that out loud to yourself and let it just reverberate into the atmosphere that the solicitor in the 8th Circuit, who wants to be the Attorney General for the state of South Carolina, allegedly says, "I think all in this room would agree it was not self-inflicted." Then again, as family goes on, he allegedly frames 3 legal possibilities: a pure accident, reckless handling, involuntary manslaughter, or intentional murder. And according to witnesses, he repeatedly says he sees no evidence of intent to kill. I think pulling the trigger falls under intent, but who am I? He also says he does not believe he has enough to file even involuntary manslaughter, because in his view, according to the family, recklessness isn't sufficiently proved. Again, pull the trigger. And key witnesses didn't hear obvious horseplay immediately before the shot. I don't even know what that means. Somebody leave it in the comments. So let's just jump into the law and find out, what does recklessness even mean? So recklessness in South Carolina is acting on a conscious disregard for the safety of others. Pulling the trigger on a gun pointed at someone's head. And that's conscious disregard. It's worse than mere negligence. The shooter knew what they were doing was dangerous. If they didn't, and they chose to do it anyway. So this fits charges like assault and battery, reckless homicide, voluntary manslaughter, depending on circumstances. Okay, so let's get into involuntary manslaughter, and this is the legal heart, as we want to call it here. And that's a death caused by criminal negligence or reckless disregard in regard for safety of others. And this is the charge that speaks directly to what happened to Kaden. And South Carolina courts define it as behavior so careless that any reasonable person, the law loves that word reasonable, behavior so careless that any reasonable person would know it creates a serious risk of death. That's it. That's what South Carolina defines involuntary manslaughter. Is there anybody in the listening audience, in the viewing audience, that thinks pointing a loaded .243 bolt-action rifle that you just loaded, pointing that at your friend's head with live ammunition in it and pulling the trigger, do you believe that that is careless and that someone should know that it is a true serious risk of death? Put it in the comments. in this, the prosecution does not have to prove intent to fire. They only need to show he was handling a deadly weapon recklessly. Was it a deadly weapon? Yes, it's a gun. Does he handle it recklessly, pointing the gun at somebody, a loaded gun at somebody, and pulling the trigger? I'd say so. And a person died as a foreseeable result. Unfortunately, it was Kaden Moses. And that's where the case gets traction. So let's apply this to Kaden Moses. We have a teen shooter admitted to loading and unloading a gun. That is not disputed. The gun went off in the presence of others, meaning people in the house. That's not disputed. A firearm pointed towards a living human while being manipulated, meaning he pointed it at Caden's head and he pulled the trigger. No, and that's undisputed. No safety discipline shown, pull the trigger. Possibly no safe backstop, housing environment, multiple occupants. The bullet went through into Caden's siblings' room, missed them by inches. And just, never point a gun at someone with the intent to shoot, even if you're playing around. I mean, these happen all the time. So it's an accident. Okay, but that's still involuntary manslaughter. And violating these fundamentals equals recklessness. Recklessness equals involuntary manslaughter. I don't know what law school this guy went to, but he needs to just Google involuntary manslaughter, South Carolina, and this will give it to him. But this, what was his response? What was Mr. Pasco's response? Solicitor Pasco, the excuse, let's unpack it. We can't show intent. Well, that's interesting. So he's arguing the standard for voluntary manslaughter, not involuntary. The missing interrogation after counsel invoked does not prevent charging. When law enforcement went to go interview the shooter, he pled the fifth, and they stopped asking questions. They don't need a confession. You need the actions to prove recklessness, and actions speak louder than oops. Well, there's also the shot that manslaughter is still legally supported, and let's look at that. The premise is a firearm is a deadly weapon, and that is requiring the highest standard of care. And the fact is, the shooter handled it in a manner any trained or untrained person knows is dangerous. And to my knowledge, he has been hunting with his family. He knows how to use a gun. The result, the child was killed. The conclusion is that this is criminal negligence in South Carolina under 16-3-60. Case law repeatedly says an accidental shooting does not preclude the finding of involuntary manslaughter when the conduct leading to the death was reckless. Loading the gun, pointing the gun at someone's head, pulling the trigger. If that's not reckless, tell me why in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So the real standard, what the prosecutor only needs to show is that a reasonable person would expect danger. Death was foreseeable. Pointing the gun with a 243 bolt action rifle is a gun that takes down deer. I mean, it's a big gun, and that burden is far lower than proving intentional harm. It's involuntary manslaughter. That's a slam dunk. If you want to go for manslaughter, but still have involuntary in your back pocket, because that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm no attorney. I'm not giving legal advice, but any idiot with half a brain knows that is involuntary manslaughter. I'm not sure why the guy who's running for the highest legal office in the state of South Carolina doesn't know that, but I did reach out to him 2 weeks ago before I posted the article, before we talked about this on the air. I reached out to him and asked him questions directly to what the family says that he said in that meeting, and I got no response. Zero, zip, nada. Expected, I guess, right? So the bottom line, if the shooter loaded and cycled the gun, did he? Yes, according to him, his own words, yes, he did. Pointed it towards another human being, caused it to fire. Then South Carolina sees a crime, not an accident. and Kaden deserves a criminal case, and the threshold for involuntary manslaughter, ladies and gentlemen, it appears that it's met. And failure to charge represents a discretionary, not legal decision. Crucially, the prosecutor acknowledges that self-inflicted is off the table. He said it at the outset, according to the family, and that teen Henry, the guy, the kid who Solicitor Stumbo knows shot Kaden, had the gun, and the medical examiner ruled it a homicide. Yet, Solicitor Stumbo still declines to file a petition. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it. I mean, here's what went wrong that night. We've got scene integrity. Multiple civilians moved through their home. I mean, I talked to one lady who said, "Oh yeah, 11:30 at night. I walked right in the front door." I said, "Was there a cop there?" She's like, "Yeah, he's standing right there. Let me walk right in." I walked right to Kaden's room. I saw what they were doing. Immediate forensics. Apparently, there was no indication of clothing, GSR, DNA fingerprints was taken at the scene. Policing 101. Rapid recorded statements. I guess they recorded his statement that night, but I don't think so. I think that in the article, they're going to say the human movement the system missed, that this transcript that the family wrote down captures raw, unfiltered grief. And the parents asked the question any parent would: how can you know my child didn't shoot himself, know another child held the gun, and still do nothing? And the solicitors, the answers amount to this, and I quote from the family out of David Stumbo's mouth: "I just don't think I have enough to show that he was recklessly handling a gun when it discharged." Say that one out loud. And I quote, "I think I've got at least to have that probable cause element, and I just don't know that we got it." End quote. Another quote: "I am still asking a judge to guess. I just don't think I'm there." And the other quote was, "As we sit here now, I don't think there's a charge we can bring legally." I mean, maybe somebody needs to tell them about looking at about AI. I don't know. So where do we go next? This case needs to be reopened. Someone needs to do the right thing. I mean, is by his actions not filing a charge, telling everybody in his district that it's okay to shoot someone in the room, but just tell everybody that they shot themselves? I mean, Kaden was right-handed, and the bullet came from the left side, from the floor to an angle up into his brain, exited his head, and went into the wall, went up into the ceiling, into the house. I saw where the projectile ended up in the attic. It's clear as day. I mean, there's more evidence here, physical evidence, not circumstantial, physical evidence, than the state of South Carolina had to convict Alec Murdaugh. And that's no joke. So Kaden would have turned 15 the following month in January 2024. His mother, Erica, this sweet woman, says that Kaden's biggest dream was to be a dad someday. But instead, he died on a swivel chair, legs tucked under a desk, face angled towards a glowing monitor where his avatar kept moving until the line went quiet. I just don't. Somebody help me understand. Make me understand this. Because I don't. And on paper, South Carolina has already said what happened in the death certificate: homicide, shot by another. And Solicitor David Stumbo agrees, and the law supplies a charge that fits the evidence we have today. I mean, the family doesn't ask this court system to guarantee a conviction whatsoever. They're not asking for a guaranteed conviction. They just ask that the prosecution shows up, file a case to weigh the facts and venue designed to do that work, and stop calling it homicide an unsolved mystery when the documents already say someone else pulled the trigger. The article has got a ton of stuff in it. And a victim's rights angle. The solicitor confirms that the family has the right to confer with them, which they did, which is why that meeting was held. But the transcript of notes from the family also revealed that this consultation came after the decision to decline charges, not before. And that undermines the spirit of South Carolina's Victim Bill of Rights. Again, the guy's running for Attorney General. Maybe somebody should ask David Pascoe, who is his opponent right now, what he would do in a case like this, hypothetically. Of course, because, well, no, the case is closed, so they can comment on this. It's not an ongoing case any longer. Case is closed. So anyway, listen, we were the first to publish this, and Kaden, no one knew who he was. He just had an obituary. We've certainly been vocal about this case. I'm confused why, what is not happening, and I'm sure David Stumbo is a very smart individual. Did a lot of cases, but this one is just baffling to me. Tell me in the comments what you guys think. But again, I said we reached out to Stumbo for comment on his own words from the meeting, and he has not responded. Also, if you could, there's a GoFundMe that's up. I'll have it. I'll put it in the comment section below. It's also in the article at Crown and Cask. The family's going through a lot. The kids are going through a lot. They still need a lot of help. If you can help in any way, I know things aren't easy for a lot of people right now, but just $5, just chip in $5, whatever you can, $1, $20, anything. It certainly would help because they've gone through a lot and have spent a lot of money on this particular case. But again, just want to say, I'm not giving anybody legal advice here. This doesn't create any attorney-client privilege. I'm not an attorney, and I'm not giving legal advice. I'm reading and investigating what the law says and how it's been applied in the past. So every case turns on specific facts, and qualified legal counsel should be consulted for advice in any particular situation. Do not use this information as your guide. Do your own work. Let me just get back to, I kind of am in the corner. I like to see that. All right, stop screen sharing. All right, we are back at 97.7 WVFF. Veterans for Freedom Radio, the Truth in Broadcasting Corporation. I do love that, the Truth in Broadcasting Corporation and Veterans for Freedom Radio. I'm not a veteran, never said I've ever been a veteran, but I do come from a long family of veterans. We were a Gold Star family during World War II. I had 4 uncles in the armed services, and my dad, after World War II, lost a uncle in the island hopping over in Southeast Asia and Southeast Asia and Japan. And so this hits close to home for me. We're going to end today. We're going to have a little bit of shortened one, only 30 minutes into this, but I think this is an important case. If you get a chance, go check it out at crimeandcask.com. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel, also at Crime and Cask. We're on Spotify as well. And on TikTok, man, I'm telling you, TikTok is blowing up. Over 110,000 followers strong. I think that's more than the state newspaper. Even though I'm not a journalist, as some people like to say. I have 1,000 articles, 3 books, and a couple 100,000 followers, but I'm no journalist, so of course not. We're so dumb. And so, and I say this at the end because you know what? Maybe they are watching the whole damn thing. But if you hate me and you're still watching, you're still a fan. How about that? How about that? You guys make me laugh. They are literally so ignorant. But anywho, 97.7 FM, Veterans for Freedom Radio, WVFF. Let's go. Crabag Cask out. See you guys. Bye.